Hello, and welcome to the next screencast regarding the extended essay. This screencast is going to be about ending the junior year extended essay checkpoint and sending the students off to the summer to do their work. So it's the May 14th checkpoint for the 2019 cohort, and all students should have provided you a GDoc link so you can check the journal entries, the planning sheet. You can sign off on the progress form and sign off on the checklist, and hopefully you've been doing that for the last couple of weeks. This week they should have already written their annotated bibliography with 15 sources. And in looking through mine, it appears as though there is some either confusion or some laziness when it comes to what an annotated bibliography is. So I've provided a brief video of what an annotated bibliography is and what its purpose is, even though I've gone over that with the students before this point. When you look at their bibliography, the annotated bibliography that we're asking for is not going to be the bibliography that they submit for their final EE submission. That bibliography is not to be annotated. However, we've asked for the bibliography to be annotated now to avoid situations that have come up in the past where students just go out and find a few books or a few sites that can be used as placeholders for a list of sources, and then they don't use them. In other words, they're trying to just put out fires really quickly to appease us. That defeats the whole purpose of the extended essay, so we have asked students to annotate, which involves the following: the source, a quote from the source that is to be used in the extended essay, and a rationale written by the student that explains why the quote is relevant, how they are going to use that quote in addressing their research question. So the brief video says 200 words. I said in my meeting with all of the 2019 cohort students, 2 to 3 sentences is enough. However, I don't know if you're experiencing this, but in looking at my students that I'm supervising, their work, most of them have not followed the annotated bibliography directive. They're either just throwing up a bibliography with a bunch of sources, or they've written a bit of why they're going to use a source, but they don't have quotes, which tells me that they're not doing what we have asked them to do, which is research and actually look through the sources to find that information. Because if they just look at a cover and say, oh yeah, this is going to be good for my extended essay, this is how I'm going to use it, and then when it comes down to it, they don't find any good information that's going to help them address their research question, that source is now going to pretty much have to be removed from the bibliography, which then creates a situation where the student is going to have a small list of sources. And last year, in looking at some of my students' bibliographies, I had a couple of students that had 2 sources for their entire extended essay, which essentially involved them rewriting what these authors and researchers had already written. So they defeated the whole purpose of the extended essay, where it didn't involve much investigation. It just involved reheating somebody else's leftovers and putting it into their own words. So, again, we're trying to avoid situations that have come up in the past, and this is ever evolving. And so we are getting some resistance, or at least that's what I'm seeing. By May 14th, obviously, that's now this. Once we've reviewed the items, the students should have enough information and enough experience to write their first reflection, that is in their mandated reflections form that the students are going to be writing, and then you're going to be reviewing and writing by the end of this whole process. So before they start actually writing the paper over the summertime, this is the point where they're going to reflect upon their choosing the topic, their subject area, doing initial research, coming up with a research plan, so that they can now go off and write this thing. So the entire form cannot be more than 500 words. So I advise my students to write approximately 150 word reflection on their work up until this point. Their next reflection, which will be written by the time they get back from summer vacation, is probably going to be about 200 to 225 words, so that the third reflection will be pretty close to the same. Although that one's a little bit more, it might be a little shorter because it's more about refining. So just know that the magic number is 500 words total for all three sections. So they got to divvy up those three sections and allocate so many words per section. But since this one is more about planning and research, I suggest about 150 words max for that portion. So that's pretty much where we're at. This is really the time to address any issues with students that are slipping or that have missed multiple checkpoints. I have a couple that missed 2 checkpoints in a row the last 2 weeks, and I've pretty much said, hey, look, this is, if you miss another checkpoint, all I'm going to do is write in your reflection form the student was not engaged. And that's all, that's all I can really do about it, because if the student is not going to be engaged in the process, I'm not going to, make some false claim that compromises my integrity. All I have to do is provide an accurate reflection of the student's progress. And unfortunately, if that happens, then that student's score will go down, which is one of the easiest scores that they can achieve, which involves engagement. As I've said before, engagement and format are the 2 easiest scores to earn for students to really start on a good foot and have a good, strong base of points. But oftentimes, those are 2 items that students seem to neglect for some reason. I can stress over and over and over again that if you focus on these 2 items, that you will more likely have success in the extended essay. And if they don't learn that, while they're doing it, we really can't do a whole lot about it. So I just stress it over and over and over again, and hopefully it sticks. But anyway, that's pretty much it. So if you have students that are kind of outliers or they're not towing their weight, give them one last chance and say, hey, look, this is what I'm going to do if you don't do what we need you to do. Our job is not really to chase them down, but it is really helpful for them to leave their junior year here at school on a strong footing, so that they can work really hard over the summertime and have something that's actually pretty much ready to be a final submission by the time August comes around. That's the big stress, is you do not want a rough draft just to be, again, a placeholder for someone to rewrite the entire thing once October or August comes around, and you have to turn in the final draft in October or November. Why do the whole thing 2 times? Why not just try really hard to have as strong a final draft as you can in August, so then all you have to do is just refine it. That's what I suggest to my students, especially as we all know that students are going to be slammed right off the bat when they get back to school their senior year. They're going to be hit with a bunch of things. So to prioritize and get things taken care of now so there's less work later is something that I know I'll stress to my kids, and hopefully teachers, other supervisors will as well. And students, if you're watching this, you definitely want to take heed. That's it from now for me. If you have any questions, talk to your supervisor, or you can contact me. Thank you.